I think that is a fundamental reality of it that transcends even issues of ideological difference. These guys are always going to break up and hate each other and split up and put more venom towards one another than with anyone else, because the fundamental fact about these guys is that they fucking hate themselves, because they are complete fucking failures in life. Of course, they've coded it in 500 layers of lacquered irony to try to cope with the essential self-hatred. But when they try to get together with other people who are just like them, when they see the other Pepe, they're seeing themselves. They're seeing the thing that they hate more than anything, which is them. And then they take all of that hatred, which is going to be way stronger than they could ever be for some abstracted foreign horde, and put it on that person.
Well, one of their big obsessions is basically that with the breakdown of traditional marriage and monogamy, particularly in America, that there's a kind of a sexual hierarchy among men, and that women are trying to mate up. So that a very large number of women are interested in a small number of men, and then there's this very large...
Angela, the word is hypergamy, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. So that's one of their preoccupations.
Podcasters are at the top of this pyramid.
I'm a hyper gamer.
But the reason that they're obsessed with it is because they are clearly in the group that are aggrieved, you know.
Yeah, no, they're the losers. They're on the outs, and they hate themselves for it. That's where it generates all of it. Like the irony to protect themselves from it, and then the absolute misogyny, and then even past that, the misanthropy. It all just generates from that essential knowledge of their own absolute failure as a human being. And that's why they can't. That's why so many of them don't even have ideology. Like, they don't have ideas really beyond annoying other people, because that sadistic pleasure that they get from knowing that they've made someone else upset is really all that they can seek in life, as any kind of pleasure, because they're anhedonic toads.
They also have absolutely no... I mean, one of the things I say towards the end of the Jacobin piece is that they actually don't like anything about the West. Like, they talk about European civilization and the West. I mean, those are slightly different, but, they don't... first of all, I mean, Christianity is a problem for them. Most of them are openly, not Christian. They don't claim to be Christian conservatives. But, Christian morality is actually a problem for them. It's if they're, to take the scripture seriously in any way, they couldn't continue to hold the views that they do. They don't like any of the liberal tradition, and you could go on. I mean, once you take away from the history of the West everything that they don't like, then there's not a whole lot left.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I mean, like, do you think that, a lot of them, I think, worship this kind of or they go back to these sort of pre-modern, pagan traditions, but even that is a stretch, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of them do that, but that's really sad. I mean, that's sad.
Well, actually, Angela, you had some quote. It was some parable that you told me once.
The proverb was, if you don't initiate your young men into the tribe, they will burn down the village. And, there is definitely a feeling of that among a lot of the younger men who, just have a very destructive impulse. And all of it is kind of lacking, however bad right-wing politics may have been in the past, it was always in some way kind of tamed by, I suppose, a Christian ethos, or, it had some kind of redeeming elements, like trying to preserve, great art and great music and great kind of cultural traditions. This just has none of that. It has absolutely not a single positive thing that comes from, the Western tradition.
Because those other types of conservatives, they felt like there was something for them in the thing they were defending. They thought that they could get a benefit. They thought that they could get a family out of it, or they could get standing in a community or something like that, or wealth. These guys have no illusion that they'll ever get anything from society.
And, they're aware of that. They talk about that quite a bit. Like, they say things, I mean, when I start to get worried is when they say things that, we should be saying also and do. But they say, for example, Why is it that, in let's say America in the 50s, a one income family could live a decent life and have a home? Why do we have to have two now? And of course, it's because they're thinking along the same lines as Michelle Welbeck. They're thinking, we don't need women to be in the workplace. But as it is an economic argument that is going to, I can see why it would appeal to some people.
Yeah, but it's an incoherent...
guys, I'm starting to worry that maybe late capitalist alienation is bad.
Yeah, and an incoherent ideology cobbled together by 15-year-olds is maybe kind of terrifying.
Well, that's why I'm actually interested by this other thing that really seems to be the real natural outgrowth of this internet culture. And I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it. Have you guys heard of the Blackpill?
Matt, you have explained this to me, but maybe for our listeners, you should lay it out.
See, Blackpill, from what I understand, are the guys who say, yeah, everything's shit, everything is terrible. We reject the illusions of feminism and liberalism and all of those lies, but we also reject the false promise that anything could get better if we brought back patriarchy or instituted segregation. Nihilism is the only thing that makes sense. And so their heroes aren't Nazis or Trump or anything like that. It's school shooters and ISIS recruits, basically. and to me, it's that seems like if these guys really thought about it, frankly, I think a lot of them would end up there. I mean, because they should really stop and think what are you really after here? Do you really believe that Trump is going to make your life better? You obviously don't. He's going to make people you don't like mad, but that's not going to get you out of the basement.